What is going on, YouTube? It's Teej coming back at you with another video, and today we serve in a big channel update. Just wanted to pass on some news. I meant to have this video up a little bit earlier, but I wanted to go ahead and attach it on to a mock draft that I just did for my new place of draft employment, 32 beat writers. Definitely wanted to go ahead and plug this so just in case you haven't gotten to see the news on Twitter or anything like that. That is where all my draft content is now going to be held. That is going to be the home of all my work. So if you want to go ahead and continue to follow my mock drafts, just in a rotation of mock drafts that you like to follow, or because you really like my work, that is definitely the place to go see my mocks, my position rankings. We just did some college football playoff analysis and stock watch with that. So anything NFL draft related, it is now going to be over on 32 beat writers. So definitely give them a follow, subscribe on YouTube. We are working to kind of build out that platform and get it up closer, and then hopefully beyond what I have built up over here on my channel. So definitely go give them a like, a follow, a subscribe, whether it's on X or on YouTube. Also just wanted to say thank you real quick to everyone who has supported this channel over the last few years. I started in January 2021 with the hope of being able to join on with a bigger entity to continue to cover the NFL draft. And that's exactly what's happened. So, super blessed to be able to have this opportunity. I'm super thankful for everyone who's liked, commented, of course subscribed, or even if you just came back regularly to watch my content, just to give me your thoughts on it, or because you really liked what I had to say about it. I really can't thank you all enough. This ultimately happened because you all enjoyed the content I was making and latched onto the channel and gave it all the support that you did. So thank you all so much. I did want to go ahead and stitch on the first round of my latest 2-round mock draft. Not everyone will click onto a video saying channel update, so there is a mock draft here. Here is the first round of my latest 2-round mock draft. To see the rest of it, be sure to jump over to 32 Beat Writers. Thank you all again so much. I can't really believe this is all kind of transpired the way it has. This is all because of you all. But here is the first round of that mock. Again, be sure to subscribe to 32 Beat Writers. Welcome 32 and everybody. This is another 2-round mock draft coming to you from yours truly. My name's DJ Wingard, the lead draft analyst for 32 Beat Writers. Man, we've got the first 18 picks of the NFL draft order finalized. So, of course, excited to run through all those. And, barring trades, which we are actually going to have a trade in this video, that's going to be the first 18 picks, and that's going to be the order of the teams. And I'm sure there's going to be some movement in there before the draft night, one or the other. And, of course, playoff seedings and playoff games are going to determine the back 14 picks. But with more than half of the draft order finalized, of course, wanted to bring y'all an updated 2-round mock draft. Be sure to like if you were seeing this on YouTube, comment your thoughts. Who's your favorite team? Who went too high? Who went too low? Who's the right fit and right pick that you're looking at for your squad? If you're watching this on X, feel free to DM me with any questions or any other fits that you like for your favorite squad. Leave your thoughts replying to this. Of course, give us a follow as well on X. Awesome. Let's not belabor the point. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting with the Tennessee Titans picking at number 1 overall. Yeah, big development from yesterday. Obviously, with the Patriots win, Tennessee, honestly, really one of the biggest winners of the day. I'm going to have them go Cam Ward. He's my quarterback 1. Like the willingness to throw from multiple arm angles. The arm talent's there. If you believe Albert Breer, there is some love for Cam Ward in the building there in Tennessee. But I think with the number 1 pick, they are probably going to go the rookie quarterback route. Will be interesting to see if this team does decide to go the veteran market. But with the way the draft order played out, and it doesn't have to be Cam Ward, it could be Shadir Sanders. I think that's going to be a conversation we have throughout the rest of this draft cycle. But I'm going off my quarterback rankings. Cam Ward, number 1 overall. Takes us to the Cleveland Browns, and this is going to be really interesting to watch too because of the Deshaun Watson of it all, right? Like restructured contract, hard to get rid of him before the 26th season. But then also there's reports coming out today when I'm recording this on Monday that he's had a setback with his injury. So a lot to figure out here. I could have gone Shadir Sanders. I do wonder if this team ultimately does go the Kirk Cousins route instead and just kind of give him a rust deal, right? Like someone else is paying a lot of money. We'll just bring you here, try to rehabilitate your, kind of status and how you're viewed in the league. And it's a good spot for Kirk because, he gets to reunite with Kevin Stefanski, his former offensive coordinator for a little bit in Minnesota. So I wonder if that's in play. And with that said, I'm going to have the Browns take Travis Hunter. He's going to be the number 1 player on my big board, one of just a couple of blue chips that I have in this class. And again, if they're not going to go the quarterback route because of Watson, if they feel like they can make it work with Kirk Cousins, also conversation we had, we're going to have a quarterback go here at 3, but I think that's kind of situation dependent on, Dayball and Shane. They are coming back. They need to draft a quarterback. The Browns, it comes down to how much leash you give Stefanski and Andrew Berry, but could see a world where 1, they trade down from 2, try to get the rest of the roster cheaper if you're paying all that money to Deshaun Watson. If they get Kirk Cousins back and he's just as bad as he was this year, if Deshaun Watson's as bad as he was this year as well, odds are they're in the top of the draft order for next year. And odds are you'd rather draft in 2026 than 25. Again, with the caveat of how much room do you give this coaching staff and front office, right? I don't think the Giants have the flexibility to wait another year. The Browns, maybe, just maybe, but that's a conversation between ownership and them. I'm not in the room. I can't speculate too hard on this. Would love to see the Browns trade back, but not going to do that here. Instead, going to have them stick and pick the best player in the draft with Travis Hunter. Then we get to the Giants. As mentioned, they're going to go quarterback here. Shadir Sanders. It's just, I mean, this team got a lot worse once, Daniel Jones was, not the starting quarterback. You get the quote unquote fluke win. You get the big win against the Colts. Can't go winless at home. So I respect their efforts there. And ultimately, they still get the opportunity to draft a quarterback somewhere here in the top 3. Shadir's going to be an interesting fit for Brian Daboll. In a lot of ways, I've seen some people speculating Shadir's a better fit for Callahan and co. And then Daboll probably more inclined to like Cam Ward. We're speculating. Again, we're not in the room really there. I'm just going off my quarterback rankings. That's why the order is what it is. But you could easily flip these 2 picks. There's no doubt about it that like Tennessee, barring a surprise, they go veteran route. They're looking for a quarterback of the future. Doesn't seem like it's Will Levis. And the Giants, if you've watched the Giants this year, they're looking for a quarterback of the future. And Shadir Sanders, with his accuracy, ball placement, does make for an interesting fit with a big play type of threat in Malik Neighbors. And we're going to add more to this receiver room later on in this mock draft. So an interesting possibility. Let me know what order do you think these quarterbacks, who's a better fit really for Tennessee and the Giants? I think I might flip it if we're talking about best fit, but we're talking about my board. Who should go first? I'll take Cam Ward just ever so slightly over Shadir Sanders. To the New England Patriots, I'm going to go with Kelvin Banks Jr. here. Him or Will Campbell, I'm totally good with here. Campbell, we'll see what the arm length measurements are. If they're at 33 inches, I'm comfortable with him playing tackle. If it's anything shorter than that, let's start having a conversation then. But I've heard, 33 and a quarter is going to be what it's at. And I think his tape's good enough to play tackle. So again, you could go Will Campbell here. I've just been doing some tape rechecks and, just watching some teams play in Texas. And dude, Kelvin Banks is just a monster. When he lights you up in the run game, man, he is just laying dudes out. And you can see, like the Michigan game, not a whole lot that went super in the favor of, Michigan in that game. So, take it with a grain of salt. It was a pretty good game from Texas. But a lot of times they were just running behind big number 78, and he was just paving the way on top of awesome athleticism, great feet mirroring skills. And I love what he is as a pass protector. So good combination of building block skill sets there for a potential cornerstone left tackle that, and I'm not done drafting tackle, to be honest with you. I think the Patriots have a couple pieces that could start long-term at guard. I'm questioning both their tackles right now. And honestly, and that includes Michael Onwenu. I think, honestly, let's slide him back inside the guard. So that's going to be the focus here for the New England Patriots. We're going to draft a couple tackles, including Kelvin Banks Jr. All right, let's get to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go with Mason Graham here at the number 5 overall pick. Him, Will Johnson, Abdul Carter. I'm really cool with any of these guys. They have a few more names at edge, so maybe that knocks Carter out of here, but he would be the next highest player on my board. Mason Graham makes a lot of sense. This team needs a defensive interior presence upgrade there, especially if they're going to continue to play Eric Armstead out on the edge. Of course, today they fired Doug Peterson, but they're keeping Trent Baalke. So, I don't think Mason Graham has super long arms. Maybe that takes him out of the equation here. It's more of a Will Johnson route. I don't hate that whatsoever. If you watch the Jags this year, that defense needs a couple pieces. The secondary really could use it, but I also think that interior D-line. So either one of those two Michigan Wolverines, I'm cool with. But here, let's go with Mason Graham. All right, to the Raiders here at 6. We're going to go quarterback in the second round, which probably gives away who that's going to be. But for right now, let's go Ashton Jeanty. Tetairoa McMillan also in consideration here, outside wide receiver. If they bring back Myers, he's probably going to be in their slot. Brock Bowers kind of plays that same role. But, Tet plus Bowers, really like that as a 1-2 punch pass catching wise. But also this team just needs a newfound presence in the backfield, partnered up with who we're going to take in the second round. It's a really interesting, kind of read option combo, so to speak. Again, not trying to give away too much here, but probably already have. But Ashton Jeanty gives this, running back room an absolute surplus in juice right now. Just an absolute shot in the arm of juice they just don't really have. Plus what you get out of him as a pass catcher. He's one of the best players in this class. He is going to be one of my blue chippers. It's just going to be a question of why these teams picking the top 10 have holes that are larger needs than running back. And the same is true for the Raiders. But here, I think the value starts to line up. We'll take a blue chipper. We'll get our quarterback in the second round. We'll try to turn this offense around and try to build on something here in Las Vegas. To the New York Jets here at 7. This is where I'm going to have Will Johnson come off the board. DJ Reed, an impending free agent. So this makes a lot of sense. Replace one with the other. Get a lot cheaper, get a lot younger at that position. And also think a 1-2 punch, 6'3", Sauce Gardner on one side, 6'2", Will Johnson on the other. Both have great feel in zone coverage while also having great body types and I think athletic traits to go with it to be man press, kind of specialists. Will Johnson, I was just kind of going back and, I know this year was a bit of a letdown, but you just see his comfortability and his understanding of how good of an athlete he is, right? Like he gives you just enough room to where he's got great closing ability. He'll go make a play on the football and it'll leave you a little bit of room if you start to get behind him, but he's always able to get back into the play. And really, he's just trying to play the quarterback. Please throw me one that I know I can jump. He does that late against USC with that screen, so he's playing the game of it at a high level. Plus what he can do in zone, just got a great football IQ, great understanding of his assignment. And again, the body type says this guy should be really good at man coverage at the next level. Love partnering up with Sauce Gardner here. Carolina Panthers, Abdul Carter, you're going to see this in an abundance of mocks. This or Will Johnson, right? Like, please, for a defense that has given up the most points in the NFL this year, I think set the NFL record for most points allowed yesterday for points in a season, 17 games albeit, but nonetheless, this is a bad defense, and they need cornerstone pieces. Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, one of those two has got to be here. Carter's my edge one. I do expect him to play against Notre Dame. Will be a huge showcase for him. And, first step explosiveness, the hand refinement's getting better, more moves being put on display over the course of the season, natural bend. Abdul Carter, yes, there's going to be some work there, but he has all the pieces and all like the tools that you want for a true cornerstone edge player, the next level. All right, to the New Orleans Saints here at 9. This is where I'm going to have Will Campbell come off the board. And you can shuffle us a few different ways. I don't think Trevor Penning's been awesome. I wouldn't hate exploring. Hey, I know you just taught Talisha Fuanga to play left tackle. Could you flip him back over to the right side, plug in Will Campbell at left tackle? I think that could be an avenue. You could also just keep continuity's sake, right? Give Penning another shot at right tackle, see if Fuanga can build on year 2 and get even better at left tackle, and then just play Will Campbell at left guard. I'm cool with either one. 9 may be a little rich for some to draft an interior offensive lineman. Will Campbell's going to be a really good one, so I don't really mind it here. Inside the top 10, if you're getting an all-pro type of interior offensive lineman, I think the value can line up there just fine. But again, ultimately, I think Penning might be better as a guard. So shuffling, you have to talk to the guys. Fuaga, are you comfortable going back to the right side? Would you like that? Would you not like it? Conversations I can't have, but I think no matter how you put it, there's a way to shuffle these guys around to get the best 5 on that New Orleans O-line, which is looking for an upgrade for sure. All right, to the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go Josh Simmons. From everything that I've heard, sounds like he's going to be back in time to where like the injury is not going to be a concern for, rookie training camp, rookie mini camp, training camp, et cetera, et cetera. Dynamic athlete, love his ability to climb to the second level, good power for his frame too. Really nice cornerstone left tackle potential here. Similar to where the Cardinals are kind of getting with Paris Johnson Jr., you see great feet, holds up in pass protection, enough anchor to hold his own against power rushers, but also shows that in the run game. And I think a lot of the same traits are there for Josh Simmons. And I think you saw, Ohio State and how big of an impact he was, right? Like he gets hurt midway through that Oregon game. They make do the rest of the way, but then there's a couple games right after where they are missing Josh Simmons very bad. Even in the college football playoff, I think Dalton Wasserman from PFF did a great job talking about how they've changed some of their run game concepts. I think a big part of that is because you can't do the Chip Kelly zone blocking stuff without Josh Simmons in there. So they've kind of retooled it, playing a lot more gap, a lot more counter concepts in there. And I think, again, all that speaks to how important Josh Simmons was. So even when he's not out there, you just see how good of a football player and how much impact he can have on an offense. And the Bears multiple offensive linemen. Going to need a few this offseason. All right, to the San Francisco 49ers, I would absolutely love this fit. A collective first step get off between Nick Bosa and Jalen Walker might be top in the league right there as a 1-2 punch when it comes to first step get off. And just like Abdul Carter and a few others edge rushers, like a Mike Green too later on in the draft, they just have so much explosiveness and so much speed that they bring power and physicality and violence with it, even if their size says, not the biggest, not the strongest. Force equals mass times acceleration. Well, the mass might be a little lacking. These guys make up for it with that acceleration, right? And you multiply it, and you ultimately can get the same thing. Not to get too science, I'm not great in that stuff. But nevertheless, Jalen Walker on one side, Nick Bosa on the other. Sign me up for that. And then you talked about this defensive line over the course of the season, especially as Javon Hargrave goes down, Bosa misses a couple games. You really start to see how thin this D-line that we normally are accustomed to it being the strength of the 49ers, or one of the key strengths of the 49ers. This year is kind of a two-man show. I'd like to diversify that portfolio, get one more guy in the mix. I think Walker here at 11 is really solid value. To the Dallas Cowboys here at 12, I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan as a compliment to CeeDee Lamb. You play him on the outside. I'm a big slot, fan, receivers, corners. I want to put my best guy, honestly, on the inside in a lot of ways. Corners, it's a little different. Some guys are more comfortable with that than others. But, for offense, simply put, a three-way go instead of a two-way go. For a guy like CeeDee Lamb, more options the better. So I like Tet McMillan being the sacrificial X, to steal a term from Matt Harmon. Play him on the outside. He was awesome at that all year long for Arizona. Also, shifty route runner, a good yards after the catch weapon. And his frame makes him a really dynamic threat inside the red zone. And again, it frees up CeeDee Lamb to, you can still play him outside, but you can play him off the line of scrimmage, play him in motion because of that, or just keep him in the slot and give him a ton of flexibility there. So I think it just adds a little bit more diversity to that Dallas Cowboys offense. This is one of the teams that, with a loss yesterday, actually shot up a handful of spots. So really interesting to see where the Dolphins go here. Malachi Starks, if they lose Javon Holland, could make a lot of sense. But in this spot, I'm finding that I might be one of the highest people in the draft community. I know he's got some fans, but like Walter Nolan to me. And again, I was just doing some defensive line rechecks. This guy is an absolute difference maker. This guy is a tackle for loss machine. And he's not the biggest guys, right? So he's not doing it with mass or anything like that. But like the Florida game, especially like late first half, early second half, they're just getting kind of pushed around in the run game. And then Walter Nolan takes it on his own and says, you know what? I got to shoot gaps, got to get past this center, got to get past this guard, create some TFLs. And because of that, Ole Miss started to make it a game in that one. But in that one, it felt like Walter Nolan was really the only guy wanting to play some run defense for that Ole Miss defensive line. But also, I think the first step juice, he's willing to use his arm length, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be the longest arm measurement we get from interior defensive line, but willing to use that, add a little bit of different type of pass rush element to his game. Could add a few more moves for sure. He's not a finished product, but he's looking a whole lot more like the 5-star recruit that, was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school over at Travis Hunter. He's starting to live up to that potential. Obviously, first year without Christian Wilkins in Miami. I think Walter Nolan's got a lot of the same stuff that worked for Wilkins, and I think that would be a huge addition back to that D-line in Miami. All right, to the Indianapolis Colts. Laziest pick you'll see in just about every mock today that I'm sure you're seeing. Tyler Warren. 6'6", 260, moving like that, can block in line, is the pass-catching offense for Penn State. Yeah, sign me up for that. Indy's kind of in the same spot, too, that like Green Bay was a few years ago, where it's like, yeah, I like a lot of these receivers. There's a lot of potential with these guys. But, Michael Pittman's like probably the closest one to a 1, like closest player to being a number 1 wide receiver. But I still don't know if he's necessarily a wide receiver 1. I'd really rather him be like a high-end 2, like a 1B. So yeah, it's kind of the same spot that Green Bay was in a few years ago. Like a lot of these guys, but is there a difference maker? Green Bay adds a Tucker Kraft, adds a Luke Musgrave. I think they're still probably looking for a true like number 1 game-changing receiver. Not the conversation for today's video, but I almost wonder if the Colts could try to do the same thing, right? Like we got a lot of really good receivers. If we added a true difference-making tight end, could that help put us over the top? I think Tyler Warren is, one of the best tight end prospects I've seen. I'm not going to say he's the best. I still think that title belongs to Brock Bowers, but Tyler Warren, a half tier to a tier below that is still a really impressive tight end prospect. And of course, a natural fit for the Colts where they can get better at that position. He's a good blocker, which makes the run game of AR and Jonathan Taylor that much more dangerous. To the Atlanta Falcons here at pick number 15. This would be as ideal a situation as possible, right? Matt Judon just has not lived up to the 3rd-round pick they gave up. Arnold Ebiketie, a little bit lighter in size, had a good year, but he's more that kind of win with speed, bend, finesse-esque type of mold for an edge rusher. So who better to complement him than 6'4", 285 pounds, still nimble for that size, Nick Scorton, who has as deep of a bag when it comes to pass rush moves in this year's class, does a great job playing with power and arm length, which I expect to be 2 of the highlight traits for him compared to others in this class, specifically the arm length. So a different type of body type than a lot of these edge rushers, like a Carter, like a Jalen Walker, who are, off-ball linebackers turn into edge rushers, lighter in frame. Nick Scorton's a different flavor, but I think he's the flavor that the Falcons would most want to add to that edge room. Jahad Campbell, honorable mention here. If you can get Jalen Walker, that'd be awesome as well. Just a couple of the names I've seen some Falcons accounts tweeting about that I do think would be awesome fits, no doubt. All right, next up, Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to go with interior defensive lineman Kenneth Grant. Just such a disruptor from the interior. Great run defender, awesome athlete, and you can see the potential there as a pass rusher, right? Like there's a couple of reps where I don't want to call it a ghost move there, but it's, shades of it where he's going against the center and they're starting to backpedal, and Kenneth Grant just kind of sidesteps out of the way, Euro steps, if you will, out of the way of the offensive lineman, because you have to respect his first step get off and how much power he has. But once he starts getting you lean back, he's nimble enough to just go around you. So a really interesting set of moves for what he could be as a pass rusher at the next level, on top of already being a force of nature against the run. And he could play the 1-tech, the nose, basically, or he could play 3-tech. So some flexibility for an Arizona D-line that I think could use a couple pieces at both those spots. All right, Cincinnati Bengals, you're up next here at 17. I'm going to go with Malachi Starks. The safety tandem, just the safety play in general, just hasn't been good enough since they lost Jesse Bates. Malachi Starks could be one of the best box safeties in the NFL. He could soon be someone you use in the slot, depending on what happens with Mike Hilton. You could see a world where they want to move on from him. Also, maybe Dax Hill takes over that spot. That could be an interesting fit for him long-term. Just throwing it out there. Or you just play him at over-the-top free safety and try to make up for what you lost in Jesse Bates. Obviously, Lou Anarumo's gone, so it's going to be a new, defense in regards to scheme and kind of the bones of it. But I also think Malachi Starks is day one the best safety that they have in that room. No doubt about it. And he could go even higher than 17. So really good value here for Cincy. And you're not a fit I see a whole lot in mock drafts, but one that, for me, this is kind of hard for me to pass on if I'm the Bengals. All right, this is where we're going to have our trade of the video. It's still early on, so I don't like doing a whole lot of these trades because so much can still be, up in the air. And that being said, the Steelers could lose in the first round, and, that could change their pick as well, right? But I'm just going to do a third, fourth pick swap here. 86 for 134, moving up 4 spots for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am going to force the trade, but points-wise, it adds up pretty close when you're looking at the Draft Tech NFL trade chart based on the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. So don't hate me too much if you don't like it. It's pretty close. But this allows the Steelers to draft Luther Burden III. I like this a ton. With his yards after the catch ability, he really does kind of feel like an Arthur Smith type of receiver. If they do bring him back to the OC, I don't know, kind of up in the air on that. Maybe not. I think there's been some good this year, but also a lot of disappointing there. Nevertheless, he's a great compliment to George Pickens, who's pretty much vertical, go in down the field, win contested catch balls, a slant kind of off of it when you're playing the deep ball. Burden, great yards after the catch, underneath weapon, while also having long speed and the ability to get open deep down the field. So even in that regard, he doesn't really step on the toes of Roman Wilson too, which is part of why I love this, right? You did sink a third round pick into Roman Wilson and you just refuse to use him. Maybe the playoffs will change that. But if you bring in Burden, I think there's a world where him, Pickens, and Roman Wilson can all coexist. That being said, Arthur Smith does not use a whole lot of 3 receiver sets. So again, part of that is TBD if they bring back Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. All right, the 19th pick, I'm going to give the Houston Texans Wyatt Milam. He could play right tackle or he could play inside a guard. Texans fans, let me know what you think about Titus Howard. Is he better at guard or tackle? I've seen some people argue one use PFF grade for one and then the other for the other. So I don't really know. I can't say that I've become a Titus Howard expert. I will try to catch up and see what I think when watching the film, but I'd love to hear from Texans fans. Is he a better guard or tackle? Either way, though, Milam is getting some conversations around him that maybe he is going to have to play inside. If that's the case, boom, plug him in at left guard. He's an upgrade over Kenyon Green for sure. Let's give Titus Howard another year at right tackle. Or you let Blake Fisher try to improve. He was a promising right tackle prospect to me at Notre Dame, just never really got any better at college. Maybe the NFL is able to kind of flip that switch. Or you just play Wyatt Milam, flip him over to the right side, and you play Titus Howard at guard. I'm cool with either one. Texans fans, let me know your preferred outcome with this pick. All right, next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to have James Pierce Jr. be the pick here. They've just got to get better at the edge spot. Pierce brings a ton of first step get off and a lot of bend. He is noticeably thin, which is complicated because you already have a Kalijah Cansey player on that defensive line. So 2 guys who are a little bit smaller in frame. May not be the best run defenders, but they also have a Logan Hall, a Vita Vea, a Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. We'll see how much longer he's there, that said. But a couple of these guys that profile, and at least Logan Hall and Vita Vea, they have played the run well. So those guys could help kind of hide the limitations against the run for a Pierce and a Kalijah Cansey. That said a lot of the same stuff about Cansey, right? Not many places where he could go to be better hidden against the run than lining up right next to Vita Vea. That's ideal. And they'll try to find a way to use James Pierce Jr. That said, even if he only plays, passing situations, third downs, the fourth quarter, et cetera, this is a good enough team. They'll be winning enough games to where I think they'll get a solid 400 to 550 maybe snaps out of James Pierce Jr. They'll be in high leverage spots. He'll be a NFL-ready pass rush winner. And if that's all you're getting year one, I think that's a huge boost to this defense that just Yaya Diaby, some flashes. Don't get me wrong. Kalijah Cansey's been good, but still at the edge spot looking for that difference maker. Double-digit sack type of year guy. James Pierce Jr. definitely has that potential. All right, to the Denver Broncos. This is where I'm going to have Jahad Campbell come off the board. I'm not normally, big on linebackers round one. Sometimes the position value makes it really tough for these mock drafts, but Jahad Campbell's tape makes it easy to get him in the first round, right? Very good movement skills and fluidity and coverage, a good understanding of his assignment there, but also violent when tackling downhill against the run, but also splitting blocks, people to be used as a pass rusher. The question is going to be, what is this official number, right? 244. Nowadays, another linebacker like Chris Paul Jr., he's, 6'1", 235, right? So we're living this day and age where linebackers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. If Campbell's truly 244, 245-ish, cool. Not really a concern. I just have a feeling that number might be a little inflated, and I want to see what the conversation might be thereafter. Again, don't know for sure. We'll see once we get there. But an absolute boost to that linebacking core there in Denver, who doesn't have anybody who's super special. Vance Joseph likes to blitz his linebackers, so I think this is a really intriguing fit for what Campbell can do in the pass rush game. On top of, again, day one, he's like one of their better coverage guys and run defenders from that linebacker spot. So I think it makes an impact in multiple ways for this Denver defense, especially with how Vance Joseph wants to use his linebackers. All right, Seattle Seahawks, they trade back at a third, fourth swap, and then ultimately get the guy I probably would have given them at 18 anyways, Cameron Williams, right? Abe Lucas just missed too much time, and Cameron Williams, man, I think you see the impact he has on a Texas team when he can't play against Arizona State, and all of a sudden they're running wide zone against Clemson, running up and down the field, and then their run game all of a sudden gets a lot less dynamic, lot less yards per carry, and all of a sudden Wisner plays a much smaller, and Alfred Blue too. Like, those guys' impact on that game against Arizona State gets minimized. And some of that, Kelvin Banks, I know, got hurt early second half. He might not have been playing 100%, but they missed that other tackle on the other side, who is a behemoth of a human being, plays with an abundance of power, both in his anchor against pass protection, but also when climbing and lighting up second-level defenders or guys in the secondary. And plus, his movement skills on top of that frame really do fit a wide zone scheme. So I think he fits with what Seattle wants to do. And again, Abe Lucas just missed so much time. It's time to start thinking about the contingency plan / replacement plan for that player. Cameron Williams only 1 year starter, but I do think with what he's shown you, you see there's a high ceiling. It just comes down to kind of cleaning up the little things that come from a first-year starter. I trust with what Seattle was able to do with Charles Cross, a guy I liked a ton. I know he's missed some time too, but I think they could work that same magic on Cameron Williams. Potentially have an awesome 1-2 punch there at left and right tackle. All right, next up, Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to go with Benjamin Morrison here. Waiting to find out more information on that hip injury. That definitely scares me, especially for a guy who is, when you watch him, especially in man coverage, very fluid, ability to flip the hips, run down the field. Like, there's, he's a really good player with really good tape, but that hip injury could throw a wrench in it and how you project him to be after that injury. So TBD there, 100%. Want to hear some more reports on that. But nevertheless, the Rams have got to upgrade that secondary. They have just got to get more coverage players. I think they could be players for Jair Alexander, assuming he is going to be gone from Green Bay. I think they make a ton of sense. He feels like a guy who wants to go to Miami or LA. With Tyreek leaving Miami, kind of feels like everyone might flock to LA to get that, player-friendly, nice, warm environment. Also, the Chargers in the mix there too, which, throw in some Tyreek Hill trade destinations. I'd love to hear what people are thinking there. That's going to be a fascinating one. But Morrison absolutely gives this team a potential cornerback one and a boost in that secondary from a coverage standpoint that they just don't have a high-end guy, a difference-making guy. And I think Benjamin Morrison has the potential to be that dude. Sticking at the corner spot, I'm going to give the Green Bay Packers Javon Ravel, another guy who's season-ending injury, but I love the frame, love the athleticism, love the ball skills. So I'm going to take the flyer on Ravel. He is going to the Shrine Bowl, and I do hope he gets to compete there. TBD on it. He's fully recovered from the injury to do so, but I'm also interested to see, how many meetings he has and, what that ultimately looks like, what the buzz is with his meetings with those teams there at Shrine. Going to be fascinating. But I like the player, and he's a multiple ball of clay. And for a man-heavy coverage defense, a lot of cover three, I do think he's a really good fit for what Jeff Hafley wants to do on that side of the ball. All right, to the Los Angeles Chargers. This will be a pick that I mock left, right, and center. Jamar Stewart, we'll have question marks about it. Mack and Bosa are both coming back. Tuli Tuipulotu can play inside and out. Let's just say one of those two edge guys is gone. Tuipulotu kicks outside to play the other edge rush spot. Insert Jamar Stewart, who can play some early down edge because he's such a good, long, athletic player, 6'6", 290, can play the run at a high level. And then you get into a passive situation, fourth quarter, third and long, et cetera, those types of spots where you just fold him inside, get Tuipulotu, Mack or Bosa, one of those two guys, let's just say, that is back, plus Jamar Stewart out on the field. That, to me, is the most ideal way to kind of bridge the gap because you're going to lose one of those guys on the D-line. I think Jamar Stewart helps fill in what you're going to lose while also giving you some flexibility and the chance to get better, specifically at the three-tech spots. I think they have some room to improve at that specific position in the Chargers defense. All right, the Commanders are next up at 26. I'm going to go with left tackle Ariante Ursary. Coleman's been, a solid player at times, but I also do think guard's probably his best spot. But even if I'm wrong on that, Coleman does decide to play, or they're going to stick with him at left tackle, I think you can improve upon that right tackle spot in Andrew Wiley. So maybe it's flipping Ariante Ursary over to the right side. I know that's not for everybody. That being said, I think he would be able to handle that. Again, conversations that teams are going to have with him that I can't. That's totally fine. But worst comes to worst, too. I think he's just your left tackle. Coleman plays guard. To me, that makes a lot of sense. I also stand by it. I'd like to see Sam Cosmi get some chances at right tackle. Like to right tackle out of Texas. So I will continue to try to pound the table for that. But nevertheless, Ursary, left tackle, right tackle, I think there's a spot for him as a potential starter for Washington next year. All right, to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go with Mykel Williams. I think they're still looking for a little bit more impact at the edge rush spot. he's a very different type of player than, an Odafe Owe, David Ajabo, these guys that win with first step and bend and athleticism. Michael Williams is a freaky athlete, but it's more so from the power he can generate at his frame with his length. That's where he gets interesting. And also a guy kind of like Shamar Stewart, move him all over the defensive line, kick him inside in passing downs or in the fourth quarter, play him at the edge on rundowns, especially against a team like the Steelers or, just these AFC opponents that want to control the clock, want to win on the ground, with the exception of the Bengals maybe. But I think he fits a lot of that. But also the Ravens just have a great track record of draft and development, and I would love to see a guy like Michael Williams, who undoubtedly has a very high ceiling, go to one of these types of landing spots. Don't get overdrafted. Go to a good team. Don't have to start right away. Learn what it's like to be, and he's done a lot of this at Georgia. That's a great program. Don't get me wrong. But, go to the next level, be a part of a contending team, get in with that atmosphere, and then by hopefully year 2, year 3, we get to start to see the fruits of what Michael Williams could actually be at the next level, because definitely high upside play here for the Ravens. All right, to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to go with Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss, a guy that I've really enjoyed going back and checking out. Really fluid mover in zone coverage. My concerns were kind of what he would be in zone coverage, but the more I watched, I don't really have any concerns there. Again, very fluid athlete, and also you can see when they're in zone, he's very actively communicating, which is huge too. So it's just a little check. A little box to check there, but it's ultimately a lot bigger than you would think. And again, I just love what he could be as a man coverage corner. The size, the athleticism, the arm length, all that checks out from that standpoint. And Brian Flores, he's become the zone blitz guy, but I think in key downs, he would like to play a little bit more man coverage. So I think Amos checks that box. But again, I've been more and more impressed with what he is as a zone coverage corner the more I've gotten into his tape. And I do think he'll fit from that standpoint too, if Flores does continue down that route. All right, Buffalo Bills here at 29. Man, Tyleik Williams. At this point, I think he's the best guy on that Ohio State defensive line. Now, I'm a big Jack Sawyer guy, but you will be hard-pressed to find as many plays where Tyleik Williams, like anybody really across the country, there's only a few that can do it more, Tyleik Williams, where you just see pure disruption going on. Tyleik Williams is a nightmare to block one-on-one, and some of that is the man's a behemoth, right, for sure. And he has an abundance of, power with it. But he's very nimble for that size, too. So, you name it, he brings a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility to his game. I think he's a first-round guy. I think partnering him up with Ed Oliver is super ideal. Williams can be a high-level run defender. Hide Ed Oliver where he's, not really great against the run. But then both these guys in passing downs, I think you have them both on the field, really. I think Tyleik Williams is a really disruptive player. Probably a guy that can continue to rise up my board. And I think a guy you could have out there in passing downs, because the more he does it, I think the better he's going to keep getting at it. And he just already brings a lot of natural disruption with his size and his athleticism. All right, to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're next up here. This is where I'm going to have Jack Sawyer come off the board. I saw Pat McAfee, describing him, comping him to J.J. Watt. I'm not going to go that far, but, lunch pail guy, some of that's also look at a white edge rusher. Lunch pail is probably one of the first words that comes out of your mouth. That being said, I do like the size. I do like the power he plays with. He has a little bit more bend than JT Tuimoloau. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit more than JTT brings to the table. And also just, I think, a more natural athlete, right? I can trust him to drop into coverage a little bit more than JTT, to be a QB spy a little bit more, or chase down a backside, make a play on the backside pursuit. He's more likely to do that to me than JTT. So I like Sawyer here. This is your Brandon Graham replacement. Totally fits that archetype. And I think with his run defense, he could play pretty much right away for this Philadelphia defensive line. All right, then we get to the Detroit Lions. I'm going to go back to the edge group. I'm going to go with Princely Uman-Mielen. This is just one of those teams that I'm actually not done with edge, right? They doubled up at corner first and second rounds. I could see a world where they go into next year and they're like, edge rusher will not be a spot that costs us on a run to the Super Bowl. And Princely Uman-Mielen, yes, 255 pounds. Against the run, I don't think he's actively making any major differences, but I also think he's holding up for the most part against, against the run at the point of attack. He's not necessarily making any plays, but he's not losing ground all the time either. But it's definitely not his area of strength. It's his ability to get to the quarterback, pin his ears back, win with speed, very natural bend. Go watch the Georgia game. Him and Jared Ivey lighting up the Bulldogs tackles in that game. That's the tape to go watch if you haven't seen Princely Uman-Mielen. How does he win? Go watch that game and you'll get an idea of it. I just think, he may not be great against the run. Hutchinson, not the longest arm. So does that create a little bit of a liability? Maybe. But this is a team that's going to put points on the board. They're going to have teams trailing, go get some natural pass rush winners, and make life hell for opposing offenses. Kansas City Chiefs here at 32. The rich get richer, right? Let's just say Hollywood Brown's gone. You're talking about a wide receiver core, and let's just say DeAndre Hopkins is gone too. A wide receiver core then of Rashee Rice, just your inside guy, Kelsey doing a lot of the same stuff from inline, working the middle of the field, finding space against zone, et cetera, et cetera. Xavier Worthy is your field stretching guy, yards after the catch threat, starting to come on down the stretch of the season. And then you get this ultimate complementary receiver who can play outside, he can play inside, he can block at a high level, natural route runner, don't have to worry about that, can win at all 3 levels, very good hands, always comes back to the football. This is just a guy that whoever is in your receiving room, Emeka Egbuka takes it to another level, whether it's a really good room and, promising room, like I think the Chiefs receiver room next year is going to be with a Rice coming back, with Worthy going into year 2, and of course Kelsey there. Or he could be a guy that, like, if you're Pittsburgh, like this could have made sense where it's like, we got GP, but we really need a number 2. Like Egbuka would be an awesome number 2. And, if not for Luther Burden being available, like would have made a lot of sense at that spot. So whether it's a pad receiver room, Egbuka starts to get it back towards average, maybe a little bit above it. Or if you already have a great one, he fits in it and can complement it in any way you need to. So yeah, an absolute steal of a pick here for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is one that, like, the NFL, can't keep letting them get away with this, to steal the line from Jesse Pinkman. But this would be an absolute diabolical add to that Kansas City offense. Yes, I know tackle. Yes, I understand, corner's a potential other spot too. But if Egbuka is right there at 32 and you're the Chiefs, make it happen at any cost.